knowing damn well how bad it hurts to expose yourself. Someone's too immersed in their own pain to go and fucking feel yours. If my heart wasn't broke, I'd have gladly healed yours. But this ain't real love, we are just children pretending to be grown. So maybe we can feel love, but this ain't that. It's delayed indifference, and I wish it was different, but it just isn't.
Hello, friends. So it's early in the year, and I'm looking through and planning out this fairly massive production schedule for my YouTube channel, Curiosity Cubed. And it dawns on me that I've been creating online content since 2005. Yes, long before there was any of the software that's around today. So I further realized that that translates into like hundreds of courses and hundreds of hours of online content. So what I did is I looked through a lot of it, and I picked my top 10 most interesting, most fulfilling, most really cool courses / projects from the last 15 years. Enjoy.
Can we just skip to the end? I just wanna feel again.
Número 2.
Virtually all of our international students came already with a degree in their home country from all kinds of different backgrounds and disciplines. So I wanted to really give them something unique as part of their probably first experience in studying abroad. So apart from the diploma programs that we were doing that were a pathway to them getting into either work or higher institutions, I wanted to give them an online experience. So we were using Google Sites at the time. Again, there wasn't a whole lot of software back in 2008. And Google Sites was doing some pretty interesting stuff that actually a lot of the Storyline and Articulate and Captivate are now doing in their software. But I wanted to deal with technology because there was a lot of technology advances. 2008 was also, it was the release of iPhone 2. Give you an idea of how far back technology we were. So I did all kinds of research around emerging technologies. There was very little about cloud computing, but it was an emerging technology. And a number of other new mobile technologies that were coming out. The App Store was beginning to hit its stride because of the iPhone 2 was now out, etc. iTunes was becoming big for phones other than just for the iPod. So I did all kinds of gap analysis of where our students were at and what they had access to in their home countries, and then did a whole lot of internal research from my own sources and people I respect, designed the course, created a lot of the media, because again, there was no software at this point. It all had to be done. Some of it was images, some of it was readings, some of it was video. You'll see some samples shortly. So let's talk a little bit about technology timelines. We're going to do a little bit of a time travel here. Okay. So back in the 60s, and yes, I'm going to let you into some of my history as such, and remember though, I'm not that old. So back in the 60s, we're going to go into the 70s, the roaring 70s. Well, I don't know if you've seen some of these pictures before, but this was this wasn't even the original cell phone. This is like the first generation small cell phones, even though it's probably like, you know, a foot, 12 inches high, and it was a big honkin' sucker. The very first cell phone looked like a small briefcase, and you had to carry this thing around with you and use the phone, right? So it's a full color computer, and this was one of the computers that started to do the early animation for film. The title sequences and the games on this were much better than the games you could get for these, because this was more powerful than these, even though it didn't have much of a processor or a hard drive. The way Commodore set it up was great. But again, classic example of a great technology but terrible marketing skills. So you're going to hear a lot of technology has to do with that. Now, all that changed in the 90s. So you see one of the big deals with cell phones in the 90s, they got much smaller. Here's the full color PDA that could be used. The cell phones got sleeker. Mind you, in the 90s, early 90s, it was still, you had to pull out the antenna in order to get good reception somewhere, right? And hosting and getting your domain name became cheaper, and hosting became cheaper, and the web has just, as you saw from the Did You Know movies last week, has just proliferated into this massive sort of thing, right? So that's why you don't really see much about it until we get into the now. So cell phones here have obviously gotten a lot smaller. Gaming has gotten really complex with the Wii. This is like your 52-inch LG plasma TV. It's come a long way from that 19-inch so-called portable. As maybe you've heard me talk to some of the other classes about it, early adapters are people like me. When new technology comes out, regardless of age, jump on it because they can, one, it's cool, two, they can see how they can benefit from it. Okay? But a lot of boomers, a lot of people my age, a lot of people your parents, certainly your grandparents' age, are still possibly scared of a lot of technology. So when you come into a workplace and you say, oh, gee, we can do this and this and this, or don't you have that, and how can you not have that? You got to be careful that you're not really going to annoy some of these people because they've still grown up with all this old technology. So I just bring all of that up to give you a little bit of context into where, as a 21st century learner, you are fitting into, yes, the 21st century workplace, but it's still being run by 20th century managers. Okay, social tolerances. This is a really, really interesting last sort of paragraph when it's talking about how the millennial generation is a little more open to a lot of the changes or shifts in, I don't know, I guess what is socially normal these days. For example, the idea of same-sex or mixed marriage. Obviously, when I was your age, early 20s, homosexuality was still pretty much what they call in the closet happening. Then in the 80s, sort of things changed a bit, and certainly into the 90s. So now I'm not even sure if you're aware of it. Same-sex marriage is okay in BC, actually most of Canada. Mixed marriage has become the norm because there are so many foreigners and immigrants in Canada and even in the States. Some states will allow same-sex marriage. A lot of states are still very religious conservative and do not. So is that intolerance, or is that, whatever you want to call it? But your generation has had the opportunity to grow up with some real differences of opinion in a lot of these issues.
Loaded into sites, which was pretty intuitive at the time. Test sites, and here's where I had my own internal loop, because it took some trial and error to figure out what was the best, what would play the best, what was good resolution, what would have lag time, what wouldn't. Again, it was a lot of the early stages of this kind of thing, and then eventually put it out and started the semester. Okay, so welcome to the sort of technology or the tech part of CC139. This is the stuff that you're going to require on your computer. It doesn't matter if you're Mac or PC or even open source at this point in time. There's three basic pieces of software that you're going to need for a variety of reasons. So on the iTunes, now this is the Apple version because I'm working on my Mac, but the PC will be very similar. So basically you're going to go along here. You're going to go to podcasts. It's going to give you this whole list of different kinds of things that you're going to want to do for podcasts. Or if there's something specific, like one place you are going to need to look, subscribe to, even though it does not cost you anything, is something called TED Talks. And these are just absolutely amazing concepts about just millions of different things around the world and ideas and speakers from all over. And you can see here I've got probably hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these things. Sorry, that's iTunes or Google Chrome. The reason I'm suggesting these two are for two different reasons. One is, well, both of them because of speed. Regardless of your internet connection, Chrome and Safari are the two fastest browsers on the market right now in terms of trying to get access to things. This course and this program. Now, there's a couple other things you need to be aware of. One is you need to know how to get into your sites. So if I was in Mail, but I'm not right now, I would have these across the top in your Canadian College account. You're going to click on Sites. You're going to find the July 2010, you're going to click on CC 139, and then you're going to click on, sorry, I should do that first. You're going to click on CC 139, 21st Century Communications, and you're going to get the upfront part here. That's some of the stuff I talked about in the intro. These are the two minor assignments. The major assignment I'll put up shortly here, okay? Down here you've got an article that you're going to need to read for week 2. I'll talk about more of that in week 1. And then the 139 videos. This is the most important link right here. This is going to take you through, and it's not complete here yet, but you're going to see it. So there's a few comments you need to be aware of here. So this 2010 change 1, that's the actual lesson, okay? Then where it says the word resource, this is just extra listening if you want to, okay? You don't have to watch that, but where you see these things, okay, so here's lesson 1, change 1. So anything that's a lesson you have to watch first. Anything that's must see is probably part of, or must watch, is part of a homework assignment. And when you watch lesson 1, you'll see why you need to watch those. This more about, or the history of the internet, anything that says resource is just there as an extra piece in case you want to watch it. Some of you may, some of you might not, depends on the topic we're doing that week. Okay? The other part of it is also then you would click on documents, then you would come up with something like this. Here's what your personal journal is going to look like. So you're going to see here it's going to have, well, it says week, but it'll be lesson 1, homework 1, homework 2, homework 3. Basically this is change, and this is, no, let's do that right now. This is change 1, or change. This will be tech. And this will be the cloud. Okay, so your change homework goes here, your technology homework goes here, your cloud homework goes here. You and I are the only ones who can see this, okay? It's pretty simple stuff. Okay, so that should do it for the intro. Enjoy the course.
Knowing damn well how bad it hurts to expose yourself. Someone's too immersed in their own pain to go and fucking feel yours. If my heart wasn't broke, I'd have gladly healed yours. But this ain't real love, we are just children pretending to be grown. So maybe we can feel love, but this ain't that. It's delayed indifference, and I wish it was different, but it